Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Welcome back, everyone, to the Oasis podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining me again on another episode. I thank you. So today I have a brand new guest with me, Miss Jenn, aka my work sister, but we not work sisters anymore. So you just my real sister now. So Jenn, go ahead and welcome yourself to the listeners and the viewers.
Hello, everyone. Hi, T. Thank you for the invitation, and greetings to your listeners and your viewers.
Thank you. So today I am coming back with an update. I haven't provided a home buying update in quite some time. So I figure now is the best time as any to give a good little rundown about what's been going down. So I have here with me Jenn, and we'll talk about, how Jenn has entered, or rather how we've kind of entered each other's home buying journey a little bit later on in the show. But to give a brief recap, it is now 2020. What is it? What month are we in? Because this time is flying.
2021,
June 2021. Yes, because clearly I'm still stuck in the past. June 2021. And so this has been approximately a good, I think probably year 4 of my search of trying to find the right home. And I've already shared my experience, the ups, the downs, the almost, and just not happening. So for 2020, I had informed you all that I've decided to stop searching. Or at least I stopped searching for a little while, and because I just need to get my mind right. And then, COVID, trying to figure out how life was looking and how life was going to be. And thank God for that. I stopped searching right before COVID actually occurred. And I've had a lot of changes in my life since then. And I think that was probably the best decision to make. So I decided, come 2021, we're going to get in there. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do this thing. Well, we could talk more about how that's been going. But I am still searching. It has been interesting, and Jenn and I will discuss a little bit more about that as we continue this episode. So Jenn, you want to kind of tell everybody how is it that, or kind of what you want to share, and why is it that we're on this episode together, or would you want me to kind of bring it up?
Well, we're doing this episode. First, you invited me. We wanted to share our experiences, and because we've kind of joined each other on the journey, or rather, I guess you could say I joined you on the journey because you started way before me. So you've been grateful enough to share your knowledge about the process and what goes in all the details. And we've kind of shared our experiences and our struggles. And now we're kind of try to look in the same area, actually have the same agent. So kind of a joined journey right now.
Yes. And so for a lot of people, I think the home buying journey it's rarely done solo, right? However, if it's done, quote unquote, in a duo, it's usually like your partner, right? Or maybe parents or something like that.
All right.
So my homegirl Kiana, she was on a previous episode talking about her journey, and she did it by herself, and she taught herself and her daughter, but essentially she did it on her own, and she talked about the difficulties in doing that. For us, we are first time homeowners, we are single women under the law, and it's a daunting process. And I think even if you have someone to go through it with you emotionally, granted it doesn't have to be financially, it is, I think, a way better experience. I know when I was searching in 2019, I was in a relationship at the time. And though it wasn't going to be like a financial kind of doing it together, having him present though, emotionally was helpful. You know what I mean? Like physically was helpful. Having someone there with you to look at things, to weigh things out was really helpful. And so again, Jenn knew that I was going through the process. Again, she listens to the podcast. Shout out to you. Appreciate you for that. And so we talked about, the process. And then, she got to a space, she was like, yeah, I think I'm ready. And so I was like, girl, you know what I'm saying? I'm here if you need me. I have some tools, some tips, or whatever the case is. And then we got to talking. I think we kind of both kind of came to kind of on our own, kind of like, what would it be like if we could like go on the journey together, right? And so we ended up bringing that up. And we decided that, why not? So we ended up looking for an agent together. We'll talk about that journey. But we looking finding an agent. We essentially knew what we wanted. I guess you could talk about that, how you first came in thinking you wanted one thing and then kind of how it evolved to another. Because I also had that same experience when I first started. But we could talk about what you experienced. But we essentially started doing it together. Really, honestly, for me, essentially, it's not only just something about that's financial because, we both can afford to buy things on our own, but it's more of like a emotional, but also like bouncing ideas off each other. I think that is probably one of the most helpful parts of it because doing it solo dolo it's a little scary, but it's also really confusing, right? It's also just like, it's just a lot. It's a lot. So kind of share your thoughts and experiences about how it's been for you, kind of where you started when you started the process mentally and what you were looking for and how that's evolved.
I must say, aside from home buying, prior to me even starting this journey, we've always, whenever we meet, we've always exchanging ideas and things about social issues, financial issues. So, and then you started sharing about your home buying experience on the podcast. And when we would meet privately, we would also talk about it. So I remember one time I think we went for a walk, and then there was this post I saw on Facebook where this person said that a lot of time we try to do things on our own, but
Yeah.
imagine if, let's say, a group of 10 women put
Yes.
together, and every year they together they try to buy a house. This person every year buy a house versus you trying to do it on your own. And then I know we spoke about it. So I was like, wouldn't that be interesting? We should, maybe something we'll try to do. But at the time, I wasn't financially ready. I was still looking to see what was out there, how much I needed to save. So I wasn't ready. And then I think we kind of set a timeline.
Yep.
Based on how much I'll be able to save by when and your timeline. We said, okay, let's try to revisit this by this time. So we did. At first, I was a bit, I guess, trying to figure out where I wanted to look. I had this vision of where I wanted to buy a house. Of course, I wanted to be close to work, close to family and friends. It took me some time to realize that it wasn't gonna happen because the market is not easy. It's everything is too expensive around here in New York City, surrounding area. So it took me some time to realize that I most likely would have to move to a different area. And I guess you were already there, and I appreciate the fact that you gave me the space to grow and find out on my own that this is the direction that I wanted to go versus you trying to convince me that this would be a better option. So once I concluded I wanted to go to that direction, which is where you were already looking, so we kind of said, okay, we're gonna do it together. We went over our wants, must have. They were very similar. So we said, okay, let's start looking for an agent and see what's out there. So I guess that's how we started. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
add anything.
Yeah, thank you for refreshing my memory because now I do remember us having that conversation when we did take a walk. It was like, yes, I'm like, yo, I always say that like it's better to work together than separate. But again, when it comes to money, when it comes to credit, when it comes to a lot of things, and for various reasons, everyone's not usually on the same page about these things, right? Or they just won't or don't want to have those conversations. But I was so happy we did have the conversation. And then I know, knowing your personality, because again, I call you my work sister, but we have like very similar personalities. So I knew once you put your mind to something, I know you was going to research it. And I knew once you committed, like you were going to commit to it. So I wasn't afraid about that part. It was just like, okay, let's hopefully the timing adds up where we're both going to be ready at the same time to start looking again. And it actually happened that way. So that was a great rundown. So now let's get to we now decide, hey, let's look for an agent. So since, we both live in Brooklyn, we live really close to each other, and we both are looking for similar things, it was like, hey, why go on a search looking for separate agents? We can just do this together. We can literally go out and search together. And so we decided, to put some feelers out there for certain agents. And so I think I would, social media is when social media can be very helpful. I have people on social media that, people make their little announcements that they bought a home and that, what agent they use. So I was like, okay. So I started, making a little list of people in my network that are agents or who've used a particular agent. So I saw someone had just bought a home in Jersey. So I was like, oh, perfect. Reached out to that person. And then we were able to have a phone call. So we initially thought we were getting a different person to help us, but it was an associates, because it was two agents that we actually got connected to. I'm assuming there were a couple. At first we're like, okay, maybe they were just a team, but I don't know what you think. I think there were a couple, honestly. Like,
yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Possible.
So I'm going to add some things later on, but I'll let you kind of talk about that experience. I'll add about how I felt about the experience. But so we initially got two for the price of one, right? We was like, oh, okay, it's two agents. So it was a male and female. The female was more like, I felt like she did more of the legwork, I think, looking up places. And the male was kind of more of, I guess he did more of the behind the scenes, stuff.
Yeah, it seems like he knew more about the regulations and paperwork, and maybe had more contact. It seems like he had more experience than her.
Yeah.
In real estate. So yeah.
So what tell people, what was that experience for you? Like, how did you feel that experience like? Because we're talking past tense because we ain't using them no more. So just what was that experience like?
At the beginning, it seemed like a good fit in the sense that they seemed very organized. Our very first meeting, they were very organized. They seemed knowledgeable and eager to get started. They were young, and we started rather quickly, I think. But we gave them the list of things that we wanted, areas that we wanted to look into. But we started in the right direction, but I don't think that lasted. And I guess maybe one mistake we made is that we needed to ask them if they're familiar with how familiar they are with the area, because I think it makes a difference. And also, perhaps the timing wasn't right because it was more winter time. Perhaps the inventory was also a barrier. Needless to say that it did not work out. We had to make the decision to let go. But I feel like at the end that they weren't very invested they weren't committed at all.
Yeah.
Because they made it rather very easy to just say, okay, this is not to let go of the partnership. So
yeah, I agree. So Jenn is being a lot nicer than I would have been. I'm gonna keep it real. So I think that they definitely came in eager. They definitely came in wanting to help, and that, of course, it was important for both of us. It was like, all right, cool, that's great. It's two of them, should be great. I do agree on a few things that we should definitely make sure that they were familiar with the area. They were from Jersey, but they were just from a different part of Jersey. So they were not familiar with the areas we were looking for. So that's something that, you learn from your mistakes. Also, we should have, I think, ensured a little more that they really had the know-how of dealing with first-time homeowners, because I felt that there were things that we did do as first-time homeowners, asking certain questions, right? Inquiring about certain things. And then also, as we were looking, we started adjusting the things that we wanted, because of course, the more you look, the more knowledge you're gaining, the more you're like, oh yeah, so maybe I thought this was gonna work and this is not working. They seemed to grow frustrated when we did that. That was one. Another thing was, of course, okay, so not of course, but those who may be just watching this for the first time, right? So when you go ahead, you get a pre-approval or pre-qualified, they tell you, they might ask you how much, what's the range you're looking for, or you can kind of get a pre-approval or pre-qualification for how much you can just afford in general, right? And I think that this is not the first agents that have done that, but I think they kind of stuck to that a little more up until the end, when we became a little more assertive that we are not going past what we were approved for. So we were approved for, yes, we were approved for this wonderful number over here. But Jenn and I both are people that's like, I don't do the struggle life, and I don't want to be living check to check. I want to live comfortably. So we won't stay right over here. And I think they kept saying, yeah. But then the things they were showing us was like, but we told you we don't want that number. Like, and I think they did that for a little while up until we kind of like was a little more certain, like, hey, it's not what we want. And if it is at this number, our list becomes way longer. It has to have certain things, right? So it was that part. I felt like midway through, and now let's give an idea. I think when I forget, I'm bad with the like timing, but I feel like we worked with them for like 2.5, about 3 months, right?
Right. That's correct.
About so essentially that's not a huge amount of time for anybody who's looked for a home. Some people are really lucky and they can right away, but essentially looking for a home takes about 3 to 6 months, and on the longer end may take upwards of like 8 months, right? I felt like midway through, so about a month and a half in, because I felt like you and I started having conversations about like, at least I would bring it up, like maybe we should start looking for other people. But again, Jenn likes to give a little more grace than I. And so she was just like, let's give him a chance. So I feel like we gave him like another month or so of like, let's give him more chance. Let's give him a little more direction and see what they pull up. I feel like we were doing most of the legwork and searching for places. They were not really like, I felt like they didn't follow up, or there was just like a hunger, a drive that just wasn't there, I think.
Right.
And then there were 1 or 2 conversations where I felt like they were blaming us for how the process was going. Like, oh, we've been going at this. We went out, at that point, we went out maybe 3 or 4 times and we've seen like 6 homes. Oh, by this point, you guys should have found something. What? Like, I felt like they were trying to force us like to hurry up and buy something. And that just rubbed me all the way wrong. Like, I personally didn't. I personally at that point was like, oh, I'm not happy here. I'm kind of done with it. But again, like I said, Jenn has more grace than I, and she wanted to give him more chances. And I was like, that's cool, that's fine. Because sometimes I could be a little like, take them scissors out and snip. So I said, okay, I'm learning. I can learn patience here. But essentially, we ended up having to let them go, and they made it very easy. Exactly what you said. Like I felt like they started, dwindling in kind of how they were engaging with us. And so when we was like, I think we're gonna decide to sever this relationship, they were kind of just like, well, okay, if that's what you want to do. And then that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
even prior to us having that conversation, I think on 2 occasions we brought up that things are not working right the way that we're doing things. So we're not really getting any results. So we need to change the way we're doing things, our tactics. So then and I've even made suggestions. And instead of them saying, okay, let's strategize and see how we can change things, they just made excuses. And on the second time when we brought up the conversation, they just said that if you're not pleased, then you're more than happy to work with someone else. So
pretty much go kick rocks. That's what they told us.
But they didn't feel like there was nothing else they could do differently. And meanwhile, we weren't really getting results. There were a lot of homes that we would send them. We were not able to secure any viewings, so any showings. So what are we doing?
Yeah, and I felt their strategy just wasn't helpful. And so Jenn and I, like, we're on it people, right? So we see something, we gave our availabilities ahead of time. That's not what they asked us. It was something that we just did, right? Before the end of the current week, you had our availability for the next week. So you could easily just schedule something if you needed to. And then we were consistently showing them things that we were interested in so we can schedule. And what they would do is we would give multiple days, but they only choose one day. No worries. Fine. You want to take us out on one day only? That's okay. Then it was, okay, we're going to go out on Tuesday. Mind you, we sent them listings the week prior, maybe like a Thursday, let's say. And though they knew the market, things were moving fast. She would inquire to look at places the Monday before the Tuesday. or maybe the Sunday prior. And a lot of times agents, though they are 24/7, they're not 24/7. Like Sundays, they usually not doing much unless they're like people that are really, really hungry. So it didn't make sense. Then she's like, oh yeah, and so it'd be the day of. Oh, I haven't heard anything back yet. I haven't heard, and it's like we're sitting there like this, like, oh, are we gonna go? Are we not gonna go? We don't know. And if we're making this trip all the way out to another state and seeing one home, two homes, maybe. And it's like, this is not cost-effective, one. And two, it doesn't seem like the best strategy, right? And so, yeah, you did suggest things. I suggested things, and they're like, okay, and kept doing the same thing. So I felt like the hunger wasn't there. I felt like the commitment wasn't there for us. There were a few things that in the beginning made me kind of raise an eyebrow, but I was still open to just like, still, of course, exploring. And again, I've been in the game a little bit longer, and there's real estate agents are people. People are people. They're going to do things in a particular way. So, people go about things differently. But the reality situation is this. As people of color, and AKA, I'm just saying as Black people, right? We are treated very different when we are doing a lot of things. And home buying is no different, right? So when you're searching for homes, and this is things that you can honestly, you can look it up. You can look up articles, you can look up videos. They've done like studies of like how Black people are treated when they're looking for a home. And a lot of times out the gate, before you can even say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, they're like, oh, you've been pre-qualified, you've been pre-approved, and they want to see it. They want to see proof that you can actually afford. And it's like, I get that. That's cool. But is it necessary? And we know, because Jenn and I, again, have read articles, we have looked at stuff. So we knew there were certain things, protocols that were pretty much preference of real estate agents. And then there was some things that were required. And so out the gate talking to them, though, they were like, okay, you guys are pre-approved, right? And they were like, we already came to the party ready. But it was like, yeah. And then they were like, oh, yeah, so we're going to need that, before we go out. So we kind of questioned back, why? You know what I mean? We already know you do not need that. And honestly, you don't actually need that. So when we kind of pushed back, they kind of like, it was like, yeah, we need that. But then we ended up going out with them and they didn't ask for it again. So I think that they realized, okay, like maybe we should not push on this thing. So that kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong too. I'm not gonna lie. I do want to say, and this is no slander, no hate, but this is a fact, is a fact. I think if they looked like us, it would have went different. And I think now Jenn can attest to that, because we now have a Black real estate agent and the process has been very different. And they were of Latinx descent, so I don't know where they came from, but again, we already know how that goes. Sometimes they might consider themselves people of color, sometimes they consider themselves Black, or sometimes they consider themselves other. I don't know, but I do feel that they treated us different. That's just how I feel, honestly, deep down in my core, because there were so many other little things, how they would respond to us when we're just like inquiring about things. They would give such energy to us that was like, that felt a little forceful, like that felt a little strong armish. I ain't like that. And so we would constantly have to like recoup and kind of like be like, all right, let's bring it down so we can answer in a very professional way. And I feel sometimes that they didn't come at us professionally, and those things rubbed me wrong. I'm very big on respect, period, right? And I didn't like some of those things. So there were a lot of little things that just rubbed us wrong. So we eventually got to a space about 3 months in. So we went from pretty much midwinter, or was that midwinter, late winter? It was like
no, spring, I think.
We started in the spring because it was cold.
Yeah, because we started with the second agent in May.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so yeah. So I mean, I think I guess the cold was trickling off, and it was pretty much still off season for home buying, because the on season usually starts spring into summertime. Right. So there wasn't really a lot of inventory, which was true, and they were going fast. And so because of the low rates that we've been experiencing because of COVID, things were like moving because people were jumping. However, it was low rates but way higher prices. Right. And so it made it really, at least for us, we weren't just going to just grab anything, but it also made it hard to, like, if we did find something that was like decently priced, to see, because again, they weren't really helping us get access. So now we're on a hunt again. I had told Jenn before, even though like we had talked about it and we said we was going to give them another month, I already started doing my research, make my little list like, okay, girl, we about to reach out to these people, these people. And so I sent her other agents, all Black this time, because that's it. Ain't no because that's it. And so she was able to look, at some of them. And so we reached out to actually someone that I went to school with who was currently an agent. And, there's a lot of qualities about her that I enjoyed. I've been, following her on social media. So I shared it with Jenn. It was like, yeah, she looks great. Wonderful. Reached out, but her, she didn't really do Jersey, right? Like she did. Yeah, she didn't do Jersey. So, she ended up handing us over to someone else. And honestly, I think she did a great job in who she handed us over to. So far, I think so good. Again, people are humans. So people have their little quirks and their little things. But out the gate, I think he came in hungry. He came in engaged. He came in honest, and I think he still is till now. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Jenn, if you want to add anything about,
Yeah, I think from the get-go, from our first meeting, we're like, wow, what a difference.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely seems eager to find something. He listens. He asks questions about what you're looking for. He gives feedback because he's from the area. So he knows not only the experience of home buying, he's a homeowner in the area, grew up in the area, but he also knows the experience for us. So I think it's a completely different experience. He will give us feedback on different area that we look and about if we're looking at an area but we're kind of hesitant, so he'll give us some advice on why it would be a good area, it's up and coming, and how things, he knows the ins and out of that specific area in Jersey where we're looking. Yeah, he definitely makes me feel comfortable. He makes out like, I never said that to him personally, but he makes you feel like it's like a brother looking out for his sister.
Yeah.
So I'm very comfortable with him. I think it was a great choice.
Absolutely. And even when I think he does a good job listening, right? So like we send him things, he gets on it. If he can't do it, he almost 9 out of 10 times is going to tell us, oh yeah, this is why I didn't work out, whatever the case is. And even when he's quiet, he's working. And I think that's the part that I appreciate, right? We know that we're not the only clients. We know that you probably have other people and you got to make your money and you got a family, you got things you got to do. So we're not thinking, oh, it's all about us. But I appreciate how he communicates. And even when he's not necessarily in constant communication with us, he'd be like, boom, all right, we're doing this. And then when we show up, he's like, we're doing this, and that, and third. I don't think we've ever been out with him and only seen 1 or 2 properties. He always has a list. He respects our time and he understands that we're trekking from another state. He respects what we're looking for, right? He gives us honest feedback. And I think all these things, like exactly what Jenn said, it's like a very big brotherly, like we will, trust me, we ask questions, we talk, and he never tries to rush us off the phone or makes us feel like that's a dumb question or anything. He'll sit there and be like, look, this is what I feel. This is what it is. This is what I would recommend. This is what I did for my own family members. Like he is very like on it in that regard. And I think that is a big difference. In my experience, I've worked with other agents that were Black people. And I'm like, it felt different than the experience that I had when we had the other 2 agents. It just felt very different. Again, everybody had their quirks. Everybody had their things, but it just felt different. And I was just like, I'm happy that we're now in this space with somebody different. But to those who are searching, definitely find somebody you are absolutely comfortable with. And again, it may not be somebody that looks like you. That might not be a big deal for you. But if your gut says otherwise, go with your gut. If you feel you're not being listened to, don't shy away from the things that you want, because at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your commitment, it's your credit. It's you gonna have to deal with that. Don't let anybody feel like, oh, like you need to go to the higher end, or oh, well, things are going like this, so you ain't got to do nothing. Okay, sit and wait. What's for you is going to be for you. Don't let no one make you feel otherwise. And again, doesn't necessarily mean because of their race or ethnicity that you're going to get treated better or worse, but it's important to come in knowing what you want. And again, having that support, because I think Jenn and I were able to we felt things individually, but when we spoke out about it, it was like, oh, okay, I thought that was just me, girl. I thought, you know what I mean? And it's helpful when someone's going through the experience with you for them to give honest and true feedback because they're experiencing it with you. And so for that, I'm really fortunate and grateful for. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, with our current agent, one other thing I really like about him, he's very proactive because we've seen properties that we didn't send to him that were not on the market. So he knows what we're looking for, and he's being proactive, asking his contact. So that's one thing, and I really feel like he makes us feel like he wants us to win. So it's not just a transaction for him to get a commission. So it's not like he's not just out for his commission, but he definitely wants us to make a good choice and for us to succeed in our home buying. So that's something I'm grateful for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked a lot already about real estate agents and all that, but why do you feel like home buying is important for you, and why are you searching right now?
I guess I'll start with the shorter answer. Why now? For me, it's about financial readiness and also the market because the interests were so low. But I must say, even without the interest, the timing for me, because it's something that I've thought about for years that I really want. So now I feel like I'm in a better position financially to pursue this. So that's why I'm doing this now. Why home buying? Multiple reasons. One, to have my own space. It's about financial independence. It's about building generational wealth, building equity, my own equity versus somebody else's, paying somebody else's mortgage and building their equity. And also having my little oasis, my little space when I come from work or from wherever I could call my own and be at peace and relaxed. Yeah,
I like how
these
you
are
threw
some of
that.
the reasons.
Oasis, right? Place of refuge, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, the home is an importance, right? It's very essential, something very important. I think as Black people, we also need to have actual real stakes, like actually owning things, right? We're good for spending that money. It's not, the money is in our communities, it's just where we're putting it, right? And I think absolutely it's definitely essential in just for us growing as people. So I think I have a lot more emotional ups and downs. At least I don't know if you do, and you probably, I mean, you shared some with me, but I think mine's trying to kind of lean towards more like pessimistic because I think I'm a little jaded. I think I am. So for you, what has been emotionally, how has the search impacted you?
It's been a roller coaster mixed with all kind of emotions. You get excited, and I'm such a big planner. Before something even happens, I'm already envisioning things, how things are gonna go, what I'm gonna do. So I see something and I start planning in my head, and then we go see it, or it's disappointment, or it's not what we thought. We make an offer, we don't get it, or somebody else already they already accepted another offer. So it's been a lot of up and downs, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful that it'll happen. I think now more than ever, because I see that we're seeing more options, more of the things that we're looking for. So I'm hopeful. Yeah, I'm optimistic about it.
Yeah, you give me hope. So thank you for that. Like I said, I'm a little more jaded. Been here. I kind of, in my mind, I'm like, I've been there, done that. So I don't get too excited up front. I do have a level of excitement of like, oh, this looks nice. Like this might be something. But then it's like, let me see it first. Like, let's see what's going on first with it. And because of how the market's been going. So for those, again, who don't know, one, the inventory hasn't been that much, but now it's getting better because, again, a lot more people tend to sell when it starts to get warmer. So it's starting to definitely look up on that end. However, the pricing has been kind of, right? Because people are charging a lot more for their properties. And the thing with that is that people are actually buying properties that are way more expensive than what they're actually worth.
Overvalued.
It's right. So what that means is this. So when you buy a home, the home technically has a value. It's not necessarily what the owner is charging though. right? So, but it's the owner's prerogative. You can charge whatever you want technically for a house. Does not mean, however, anyone's going to buy it at that price, but it also does not mean a person who's trying to buy it is going to get funding for it, right? Some people might have that money out their pocket. That's their business. A lot of investors, they come, it's cash money, they buying something.
Right.
You want to do that? Go on, right? You got it, you got it. However, for everyday people like you and I, right, who are using financing, using banks, we can't, or it's unlikely that we're able to buy a property that's overvalued. So if something costs, let's use New York numbers, because something costs $700,000, but the owner wants to sell it for $900,000, they can do that. Would we be able to buy that? No, right?
The bank
Because
is not gonna
correct.
approve 900.
Correct, because the house is going to be assessed and they're going to appraise it. So if the house appraises for 650, the owner's selling it for 900,000, the bank is going to be like, that joint is worth 650. That's what you're going to get. And what's happening though is that homes are appraising for less, but people are so hungry for the homes, they're paying more out of pocket for it, out of their pocket. So the bank is giving them money and they're taking more money out of their pocket to pay for it. Right. And what was the percentage? Was it like 15 to 25% more or 20 to 25% more? Yeah, and it's happening nationwide. Mm-hmm. So it's happening all over, because I know other people who are looking for homes and they're like, yeah, I keep getting outbid or I keep losing because people are paying more than what the house is worth. And I'm like, nah, girl, I ain't doing that. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense financially.
Because you're starting out with negative equity, right? Mm-hmm. So for for those who are listening who may not know, equity is essentially your house is worth a number, and then over the years, as you're paying into your mortgage, as you're making improvements, as the area grows, there's a tons of number of reasons, your house then starts to build value, more value, right? And that's considered equity. Right? This is layman's terms, of course, look this up on your own. But when you, let's say, buy a fixer upper and then you buy it, let's say for $300,000, you end up investing $100,000. Now out the gate, you've already created $100,000 or maybe about 80 to about 100,000 in equity, because you've invested money into the property to now put it at a certain standard. Now, and as you keep going, you're going to build more equity. So you're starting out with equity if you buy a fixer upper and you invest money into it. If you buy a home that doesn't need to be fixed up, maybe after a few months or maybe whatever, the home starts to build its own equity. And again, you do a little touches here, you fix the, bathroom here, you fix the, the landscape there, equity is going to build a little more so, right? Instead of the little increments. So when you buy a home though, that's valued less, and you're putting more money out of your pocket, you're now starting out with negative equity, because in actuality, you've already been told what the house is worth. The house is only worth $650, but you paid $680. So you put in $30,000 more than it's actually worth. So now you technically have to wait now for the house to catch up to that value.
The market keeps going in the right track and positive.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And who doing that? That don't even make sense to me. I can understand people being hungry. Maybe you have to move. Like, you just have to move, and it just made sense to just buy a home. But to invest a lot more money than it's worth, the seller's the only one winning here. You're not winning. You know what I'm saying? The bank and the seller, I guess, is winning. You're the only one losing. Essentially, you're the only one losing. So for me, that doesn't make sense. And I'm just not willing to make that type of sacrifice, because to me, it's just not. But emotionally, the process is taxing. I really want to be realistic with people. It's exciting just thinking of the prospects, like thinking about what can happen, thinking about, again, what Jenn was saying, like planning this and like, oh, I'm going to fix that up and I'm going to have barbecues. And I'm like all those thoughts are like amazing. But the nitty gritty of it, it's not pretty. You know what I mean? Starting and trying to find a agent that really meshes with you, being able to have the support through the process, because there are ups and downs. Sometimes you really, really want something and then you don't get it. It sucks. It freaking sucks. Sometimes it's just also the toll of literally, because we're looking out of state. So the toll of going back and forth is a lot. And I don't mean physical toll. I mean literally the drive, going back and forth, seeing multiple places. It's tiring, because again, we both work, right? We both have our own individual lives, like squeezing these things in. Sometimes you gotta, agents like, the day of, hey, yo, I got us access to XYZ. Sometimes you just gotta go. You just gotta drop things and go. So it can be very taxing. So for anyone who's thinking about it, don't think it's gonna be something like 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm gonna find something easy. Be in it for the long run. Be in it for the long haul. Don't think it's gonna be an easy process. It may not be. For some people, I've heard people who had smooth rides and that was just for you. You are lucky. God blessed you. But for a lot of people that I know, it took them a long time to find a home.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the current market or if it's this area, New York, New Jersey area, because I knew someone who went through the process a little over 2 years ago. It definitely wasn't that as complicated as what we're going through now. So I don't know, maybe it's because of location or the market or both, but I never expected it to take so long. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we've been searching how many months now? It has to be about
Hmm.
going on 6, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were with the other agents for 3 months. It might have taken maybe 2, 3 weeks before we started with the second agent. And we've been with him since I think end of May,
Yeah.
May to end of May.
Yeah.
So 5 going on, yeah,
Yeah.
five, about 5.
Right. And this is 2 people who we knew what we wanted, right? So like we came in already ready financially. We already came in like with our paperwork and all this stuff. So we just really came in already ready to go. So, and it's taken us this long. So, if you're in a different state, meaning maybe you're not fully there financially, you're just looking, or you're not even sure what you're looking for, you just know you want, or you may have the logistics. Oh, I want one family in this area, but I'm not exactly sure what neighborhood or something like that. Like it may take you longer because as you start to view things, you're going to start to tweak, and then that's going to change the direction of how your search is going to go. So just keeping that in mind for those of us who are out there and who are looking and who are searching. Anything else you would like to share about that mentally and
About the
emotionally?
No, I think we've covered everything. I guess for people who are doing it on their own, just to make sure they have some kind of support, someone they can talk to, either who've gone through the process or is going through the process. So that can be of support and guidance in addition to the agent. Yeah, I think that's important because I thought that I didn't expect the emotional part to be such a big
Yeah.
aspect of the process, because most people would think that's just the financial part. Oh, you need to get money ready and save, but to me I felt like this was the easiest part because I knew what budget I was comfortable with, and I had my budget, so every time I got paid I set this amount of money aside, and I knew when I would reach my goal. So that was the easiest part to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I think the emotional part I didn't expect, for sure, because you think you have your money ready, so
Yeah.
you're gonna find your house, and then yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
expect it to be so challenging emotionally, for sure. That was a
Yeah.
surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right in regards to people. A lot of people think that it's the financial part that is the hardest part. And it's really just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. Like there's so much more that goes into it. But one thing I did want to add that I completely forgot. So my previous searches, I went through some type of like programming, some first time homeowner or something. So this go around, I completely skipped all of that. Like I just was like, all right, I know what money I need. Like I know that I need to make sure my credit is here, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. And honestly, for those who might be going through the process, for me, this go around, I think in general, this was probably the easiest way for me. This has been the smoothest in regards to that. There was no like having to have a middleman, like having to go through a counselor and submitting all this paperwork consistently every time you're interested in like a home and doing off. I personally am happy that I did it this way, and I think that's how I'm going to
Right.
move forward with it. Not to say that there aren't because so another distinguishing fact. So there are first-time homeowners programs that are separate entities that are done through other institutions, and then every bank also has their own kind of little program or offerings for first-time homeowners. what I'm saying is I didn't go through a separate institution. I went straight through a bank. And more than likely, we probably, a lot of these things, which I mentioned before, we're not qualified for, either because of income or area or whatever, but also a lot of these programs too have so many different stipulations, and the likelihood of them you getting it and going through it, it can halt your process in some ways.
Yeah.
So I want people to also keep that in mind, not to say not to try. And again, it may be different in other states, because again, we are in Brooklyn and we're looking in Jersey.
Yeah.
So it may, that might be why it might be a little bit more difficult than in other states. But for us, that was kind of the best go, at least for me in previous experience. This was probably the best go for me in doing that.
Yeah, I don't imagine us having another layer of like a third person we have to go through. I can imagine that being the case, given how things have been moving. I don't think we would have been getting to any offers. Maybe we'll make offers, but we already knew we wouldn't be getting the property, because things go so fast. The good ones go so fast, and even the not so good ones are not staying for long, because if there's an investor who's able to pay cash, who see how they're gonna make their money, it's not gonna stay either. And you can really compete with the investors, even if they're offering less than you, they're offering cash, maybe waiving inspection and all these things that you can't afford to do. So it's still a challenge for you as a buyer who's paying with a mortgage. So
absolutely. Girl, you talking them things, girl. So we've already shared a lot of like gems and things learned. So is there anything else that you might have missed, or you want to reiterate for those who are listening or watching and they're interested in the process, or they're in the process currently?
yeah, my thing is mainly is to encourage people, if there is something, a goal that they have, or even if they never thought about it, is to look into it, do your research, and be realistic about your financial situation. Some people may not be financially ready, but they want to start. There's nothing wrong with that. See what's out there, and then do your budget, make changes. Sometimes you have to make drastic financial changes to reach certain goal. And some people, their current financial situation is, I guess, they make enough money to buy, but they're not really living realistically, like within their means. You're making enough money to get a mortgage or to pay a mortgage, but then you're spending everything you buy, your house or your apartment. Current apartment is full of stuff that you don't need. You're always buying things that are not necessities, it's just want. So you have to, that's one thing I definitely years ago I had to do to make drastic change. Have a budget, and I have a budget sheet. I have everything, all my main expenses accounted for, and stop buying things that I don't need. So once in a while, you do buy things just like on a birthday, or maybe you want to please yourself, you reach a certain goal, or you've accomplished something, you want to do a little extra, but you have to be realistic. This is such a big
Commitment.
financial commitment. Thank you. So you definitely have to be on point, be realistic with what you're trying to achieve and how you're living and spending. Because that's the thing I see with some people that I know, that that's something they want, but their ways don't necessarily support that goal. So I would encourage, that's something I would definitely encourage, especially women, because I know a lot of time we think we have to be married to be able to achieve such a goal. But if you have the financial means, go for it. Find yourself a support system, a few people, or one person who's done it, who's gonna be honest with you, who's gonna give you good advice, not what they want you to do, but just be realistic about things, and just be an emotional shoulder to lean on when you need. So that's my main thing. Like, a lot of people may think that it's outside their reach, but they may be surprised. You may have to go outside of your comfort zone. To me, it's okay. It's okay, because sitting in the same spot, you're not gonna be able. If I stay in Brooklyn, I can afford Brooklyn. Does that mean I'm gonna stay in Brooklyn but never achieve like the certain financial goals? No, you have to move outside of your comfort zone, make some sacrifices, have a longer commute, hey, you adjust. You
Yeah.
adjust. Yeah.
That's great. Actually, it was really good advice. From the things you said, I think I want to add that people think that budgeting is a restriction, and honestly, it's a form of freedom. You know, when you really start to look at it, because they
I like
said, what is it? Discipline is a form of self love, and when you are budgeting, it makes the picture of what you really can afford and what you really need a lot more clearer. And so even when you're budgeting and you're saving, when you're realizing what's going in, what's going out, what's going towards your goals. And so you now have a real idea of what can I use to splurge? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't live a restrictive life. Like I have a budget. I have money that I continuously to save. Even though I've done reach my goal, I'm still saving the money. You know what I mean? Because again, more is never hurtful. But then when I want to spend on something that I really want, I'm buying it. You know, like so for me, I already know that I can afford to do that. So budgeting, just remember, is not, don't think of it as being restrictive, but it is a form of freedom when you really, really start to dig in and look at it. But another thing you mentioned is the support system for certain, not only in a sense of, you know, having an emotional shoulder, but being able to lean on and talk to people who have done it, right? Or who may point you in the direction of someone who can assist you, because we forgot to mention, but you had, you know, people who went through the process that I probably would never have had access to if I didn't talk to you, right? And you were able to be like, hey, they use this bank, right? They use this person. And so we were able to also do the same, which I would have probably never thought about at all. So that is actually really essential, to talk about your experience, talk about what you're going through, because you never know who might have some advice for you, who never know who might have something that actually worked. And I think that's also essential, because I think a lot of times for some people, I think most people, we like to do things in like, you know, like in secret, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, I understand some things you got to hold close to your chest, but sometimes if you have people that you actually trust, it's good to just talk about certain things, because then they can really help you in a way that you wouldn't have expected whatsoever.
I'm glad you mentioned that. See, that's one thing I appreciate about you. You're always sharing knowledge, always giving me some gem, always sharing, even before the home buying process. I don't remember, you probably don't remember, but you shared with me years ago when we were working together about like some financial ways to save, and then you share with me about the online banking, which I had
Mhm.
didn't have any information about then. This is how I definitely started really being on top of my budget and save more. And I remember the first time I took my first vacation, with I stayed within budget. Then I think I spent 1 or 200 over what I budgeted for. I was so happy. Like you said, there was such a sense of freedom and a sense of accomplishment. So, like you say, some people are very secretive, and I may even say selfish, because you're not really losing anything by
Yeah.
sharing information with someone else. It's not like they taking anything away from you. So that's one thing
Mhm.
I appreciate with you. You're always sharing things that you learn with me and other people. So I appreciate that. I think that's really important for women to share with each other, empower each other, uplift each other, and don't necessarily see each other as competition. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one thing I appreciate about our friendship for sure.
I appreciate, because I learned things from you too. So thank you though for sharing that. For me, it's like I literally, that's in my mindset. Each one teach one, right? Like if I know something, at least like what you said, what am I gaining from just coveting it? I'm not gonna share it. That doesn't make sense to me. I learned something. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was helpful. Like, let me share that with somebody else. And that's always been my mindset. But I just, when you sharing that, it went in my head. Previous guest Andre from It's a Process organization, he has a tagline that says, net work is net worth,
Mhm.
right? So the people you know is really what gives you value, right? Your community over competition is another one that he has. And I always think about that, like that's absolutely true, because we are so rich. We are a lot richer than we think we are, but we think about richness in monetary funds, right? We think about in material things, but it's really about the people around you, people who pour into
Yeah,
you that you can pour into. So thank you
yeah,
for sharing that. Like, I feel good
yeah.
for hearing that. I appreciate that so much. So the next update, it's not hopefully, the next update, both of us gonna be on here showing some keys, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
That is,
open the door. Welcome.
yes. That is the hope. Welcome to my crib.
That's what I really wanted to do. But then you invited me. I'm like, I really wanted to do once everything is done, talk about the experience.
You
And
know
say,
why
well,
that is? Because there's beauty in the process. And we like to go to the end. We like to go to the solution, but then we forget. We don't talk about the process, and we forget what that process is, because all we remember is the end result. And that's why I really wanted to do that, because then now you can look back on this when you do, right, have your own, be like, oh man, yeah, we did do that. Oh, I forgot about that, right? So yes, there's beauty in the process, and that's why I like to document the process, especially this particular process, because it's not an easy one, but at the same time, the hope is, and still being prayerful about that, it's going to be a fruitful one,
yeah, for sure. And also, one reason why I agreed to do this is also to encourage other people who are thinking about it, may think that's something that's out of reach, to share our experience. And if two, I guess, two single women, not single in the sense of relationship status per se, but
Mm-hmm.
buying by ourselves, we're able to, and may I add, immigrant parents of
Yes.
immigrant descent, we're able to do this in where we're looking to buy at this time. I think that could be an inspiration to someone else who may think that's something that out of reach. So that's one reason why I agreed to do it, because I said maybe somebody else, because it definitely makes a difference when you see somebody else like you or have similar experience as you do something. It makes you more hopeful that it's possible for you. So yeah, so that was one of the main reasons that I agreed to do it before I even get my key. I'm gonna speak it into existence. It's gonna happen, God willing.
That's it, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Keeping it
no,
positive, keep staying prayed up
for
about it,
sure.
and it just gonna take the legwork. We still gonna have to diligently work, and the hope
Yeah,
is soon, we're gonna find what we want and get it, and that is the
yeah,
hope still. Regardless, I'm not jaded to the point. Hopefully, we ain't gonna find what we want, but that is definitely the hope. So for anyone who is struggling, confused, guessing, not sure, hopefully this was helpful. And if you have any questions, and you want some guidance, again, I can only share what I know, you know what I mean? What I've learned, I can give you that information, but I definitely think do it. You know what I mean? It's hard. I'm not gonna say that it's not hard, but I think it's definitely worth it. Even if going through the process and you don't get something, I think whenever you do start the process back up, you just gain you see how strong you are to go through something. At least you set your mind to something and you tried, but also you gain another sense of appreciation. People who actually do own a home and who actually went through that process, I think, honestly. So either way, why not, right? Take the gamble, take the risk, and
yeah,
failure is just another way to learn. So,
yeah. And even think about it, you're investing in your future, because
mhm.
hopefully it only will keep going up and gaining value if you maintain it. And it's something that you in the future that's gonna give you like more financial profit. So it's an
Mhm.
investment in yourself. If you have children, in your
Yep.
children's future, that's yeah, that's how I see it. It's definitely, and then it's nothing more satisfying when you're working hard and you get off work, you get home, you're home. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's another level of satisfaction, I think. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah. It's
I
like
agree.
you paying a house, but it's your house, not somebody else. It's not an apartment that it's not the same. It's not the
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really and truly, honestly, investing in yourself.
same. There are certain things that you buy, they don't gain value. On the contrary, they lose. Like you buy shoes or bags or
Mhm.
whatever thing, they're not really gaining value. A car also doesn't gain value, but it's a necessity. For some
Mhm.
people, it's a necessity. For example, if we
Mhm.
move when we move to Jersey, it becomes a necessity. But right now, I don't have the necessity, so I'm not gonna buy a car just for the sake of saying I own a car. So these are some of the sacrifices that I made. Yeah, so I look forward to. that process ending and me enjoying the fruit of my labor. And
Oh
calling
yeah.
you neighbor, if I mean calling you neighbor, God willing.
Okay. What you doing, girl? Come to the backyard.
Hi neighbor.
I'm sipping. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to that so much. And thank you, Jenn, for agreeing to do this episode. Cause
My first podcast.
okay, it's not gonna be the last because you coming back on here when we buy our house. Okay. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming out and sharing your experience. I could have easily just talked about it myself, but I think you definitely brought a different perspective. And you're gonna connect with people that need you to connect, right? So I appreciate that. And thank you so much for joining us. For today's Connection Corner, I leave you with a quote from Zig Ziglar. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts or iTunes and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or have show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram or Facebook.